Very good. Well, welcome everybody to our meeting. We have a very achievable agenda, and I need, first of all, let's see who's here. Would you say hello?
Hi, I'm Wanda Manglecook.
Very good.
Chris Shipper.
Carlos Hawley.
And Amy Oren.
Thank you. And we have an agenda that needs a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you very much. Is there a second?
I can second.
Wonderful. Those in favor, unless there's any discussion, there normally isn't. Very good. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. That brings us to our second action item, the minutes for April 18th. I need a motion there to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. And is there a second?
I will second.
Wonderful. Okay, any changes? No? Conversation? No? Therefore, those in favor of saying, or of approving, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. I don't see any public comment. That brings us to our staff report. And Megan, you have the floor.
Hello, you have my report in your packet. I'll just give you some highlights. We have a new Carlson Branch librarian, Robert Wilkinson. He just started yesterday. He was most recently working in a library out in Colorado. On the programming side, we're gearing up for the summer reading program. We'll be using the Beanstack app again for people to track their reading, just like we did last year. Pre-registration starts May 22nd. The official kickoff is going to be held at Skate City this year on Monday, June 5th. Kids 16 and younger will get free admission and free skate rentals. And it's a party for all ages. Everyone is welcome to come, whether they have kids or not. The theme for this year is all together now, so it's really community focused. So on that note, our children's department is going to have a library pen pal program. So they'll have stamped postcards at the children's desks that kids can come in and pick up and take home, write a postcard and put it in the mail, and then they will get a postcard back from the library with a book recommendation or a joke or just
Oh,
well
cute.
wishes.
I love it.
That's great.
Last year, they had a great turnout for the kids' yoga events during the summer, so they're going to do that again this year. They're going to have it once a month. Weather permitting, they'll be on the green space in between the city hall and the library. For teens and tweens, they've started a new book club. The first book they'll be reading is about being your authentic self. And in honor of Pride Month, they'll be making flags, keychains, and pins at the book club discussion. They're also having an outdoor skills class next month where kids can learn survival skills that are inspired by some classic kids' books. That registration is required for that one. For adults, we're continuing most of our monthly events and have added a new community game night. So each month, the library staff will introduce one board game to people, as well as having a variety of other board games they can play. Participants are also encouraged to bring their own favorite game. And we're also holding our second puzzle competition. We had one of these a few months ago, and it had a great turnout. So they are doing it again. People register as teams and then have 2 hours to complete a 500-piece puzzle. The top 3 teams will get prizes, but all the participants will get to keep their puzzle. And they're also encouraging people to bring puzzles of their own to swap back and forth. Do any of you have any questions for me?
I saw the Fargo history hunts coming back.
It is
I'm
one
so
last year.
excited.
One last year.
Don't say that. You never know. There could be new history that arrives.
Thank you so much. That brings us to the director's report, and our director happens to be here.
Oh, yes. Yes, per your packet, you can see my report. The one thing I would point out is in a special thanks to the Friends. You can see that back on the 30th of April. The Friends sponsored a read-in event at the main library, and we had like between 65 and 70 people there. Really a good experience. Really good experience for myself and the staff to see that kind of support is wonderful. And that's what I wanted to point out. If anyone has any questions about my report.
Any questions, anybody? He's really good at fielding these. Okay. Thank you, Tim. So that takes us on to unfinished business, the staffing request.
Yeah, that came up as a question at the last meeting in regards to kind of the breakout of the two positions we are requesting for 2024. And what you have in front of you, if you can see kind of the middle portion and then the lower portion, the top one is for the library main branch children's librarian. You can see an annual pay of $56,368, and then the breakout beyond that of all the benefits. And the same with the reference associate LA3, the annual pay of $49,318, and then the breakout of the benefits per city employees.
This is really very informative. Any questions for Tim?
When would you be looking to hire these two new positions?
If approved, probably right after the first of the year.
Okay.
That's when we'd get the go on the whole thing. We're hoping for it. We ask, and you don't always get exactly what you want, but we know what we need.
Very good. We don't need to move on this.
No.
This was an informational point, was it
Correct.
not? Yes, okay. Okay, wonderful. Now, that brings us to a couple of, to new business, and we do have a couple of action items here. The first is the Facilities Master Plan document.
Yes, as it was emailed out to everyone, and I can say, as far as my experience through this process, it's been great. I would say that JLG and Library IQ listened very, very well. The staff were very engaged, very part of the process. I think the beauty of it, you see it's in several phases. It involves minor alterations, major alterations, looking towards the future in terms of an additional branch and kind of an optimal location geographically. We're already looking at building it in, working with facilities management, looking for the future. Some of the that lowest hanging fruit obviously is the empty Breezeway Cafe portion at Main. And with, obviously working with, JLG and working with staff, we identified kind of repurposing that for things that we know we need to provide to the community that we don't currently. And that's a nursing room for mothers, a gender neutral bathroom, and then a small laundry unit for the wiggle room. So that, in discussions with facilities management, we're looking at that for the 2024 budget. I know in my original budget proposal for our capital, I had that identified for us. And through the discussions with city administration and facilities management, they wanted to take on that and put it in their budget, which is fine, just as long as it gets done. A lot going on here. I hope you got a chance to read most of it. I think, again, it really reflects all the discussions that we had, certainly incorporating discussions with the Park District, PD, incorporating our staffing analysis that we did with human resources. And so I feel good about this. I really think this will be a wonderful tool going forward. It really, what I thought was really interesting about really looking at it, you see how well located the current locations are. And so we're not in a kind of, we really missed the boat by where they are. It's more of how do we ensure the longevity as these as service points? And the big part of that is the expansion of Carlson that's identified in here, that I think is absolutely crucial. If you see that, the population, the service population around there, when that was built and opened back in 2007 to what it is now, it is a lot, it's a lot more. And so we got the right space. We need more space, and we do have room to grow, which is wonderful. So it's exciting. I think, again, there's digestible aspects of it that are rather small and just kind of adjusting till we make it better at all three locations. And then obviously there's the bigger, longer term stuff, and also tying staffing to that as well, which is absolutely key for success. So I think it's going to be a wonderful tool. It'll be kind of a living document for us, but it sets us in priorities and going forward in terms of capital projects and a lot of things that we got going on in terms of staffing and structure of the organization. So as the director, I'm happy for it. I think the staff will be happy because a lot of what they contributed, you can see that in terms of how they talked about what they heard and kind of incorporated into the document itself. So I'll answer as many questions as I have answered.
Okay, well, why don't we get a motion before, and then we ask the questions under discussion, but I need a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Very good. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Wonderful. Discussion. Any questions for Tim?
It was a lot to absorb looking through the pictures, and I was looking on my phone, unfortunately. That was
Yeah.
not the way to review this.
We have
And
paper copies here if folks need them.
yes, or even just go on my big computer to take a look.
Oh, if you want one.
So,
And you have residential areas sort of north of the,
yeah,
of
thanks, I can go
the
online.
site.
Thanks.
And I really like the
Just give me this problem.
pedestrian access.
Oh, no.
that-
Looked at it at work, but briefly. Yeah.
Thank you. Do you want to look at it again?
Sure. When you're done.
Okay. Peek through it super quick again.
Okay. Yeah, I'll take a look too when I get home.
Some of the other key aspects of it that we identified, and this is all, again, looking at growth in the future. And, really knowing that we have to account for staff growth and, any facility works good, or system or work area or workspace works optimal at a certain level of workflow. As that workflow increases, or the volume of things passing through it, it has to evolve and change to accommodate that. So some of the things that we have in here is looking out in the future and saying, okay, we know Maine is always gonna have X amount of space in terms of staff work area. And the crucial parts of that, obviously, are the circ area, because that's high volume, tech services, high volume. And So it's the idea of, okay, knowing that workflow and as we grow, and especially we're really bouncing back in terms of CERC, post-COVID, and looking at what it looks like to have an additional location and what kind of impacts on workflow does that have at the existing, is saying, okay, to evolve Maine, then we need to look at knowing that we can't really change the footprint. We only have X amount of square feet available. Then identifying what departments could move somewhere else, and then we could repurpose, evolve, expand, change workflow within that for circulation. So we looked at moving, especially with the expansion of Carlson, moving the children's folks down to Carlson. And one of the most standalone departments that we have is tech services. Getting all the new stuff in and finding a space that would really work for them in terms of maximizing volume workflow and allow for the expansion of staff. So those are other things that we identified to kind of, you know, how do we ensure the present location, you know, has a long life in terms of what it's trying to do based on the limitations that it has, and how do we account for growth? And we're lucky enough, we do have departments that are more standalone that can move off-site. And it's not unusual in larger libraries where tech services is not in a library per se, a library location, but more of a standalone location. Not to say that we couldn't have like vending opportunities or whatever for public service at that location. But that would really free up, and then we could really rethink space within Maine itself. And certainly with the expansion of Carlson, really expanding how the workflow works there in terms of circulation, which is rather cramped at the moment, and rethinking how children's would look down there, and then repurposing all that space between the CERC work area and the children's work areas, expanding that, kind of refiguring kind of like returns, so we don't have the return boxes over here, the front desk is here, but the work area is back here, so you have to literally move everything, but more directly into the workspace itself. So it's exciting to see the opportunities and that we have for growth for the organization and maintaining what we have and making it more functional. So.
Very good, thank you. Any other discussion, questions for Tim? This is rather ambitious, but well-planned, seems to be very strategic.
Very nice.
Thank you. Okay, so those in favor of approving this plan signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. That brings us to the Statement of Concern Policy Draft.
Yeah, we, looking at certainly things over the past first quarter of the year or so, and kind of looking around what other libraries is kind of tightening up, the statement of concern, and you can see it's pretty straightforward, where we essentially limit it to tax-paying residents of Fargo. I mean, those are the folks that, how we're subsidized, obviously. So they're the voice that we need to be concerned about, and, kind of putting it in a reasonable time frame. Instead of recently made in the last 2 years, so it's very specific. I think that's important. And kind of cleaning up the language down there at number 3. So I think these are good changes. I think they make sense, and they kind of tighten it up, which is good. And so certainly wanted to bring it to the board.
All right. Maybe we should do discussion before and after with this one. Is there any observations or questions for Tim before we entertain a motion?
Just a question. Were there many people that weren't Fargo taxpayers putting in concerns? Or are you just kind of looking
I
for?
wouldn't say there's a lot. you'd get the odd person from Moorhead or this and that, but it wasn't, so there really wasn't a lot, but it's more of looking at kind of the environment, the broader environment where you have national organizations organizing and identifying titles that they don't like. And so it's just kind of, no, we don't serve people outside the state, we would, but not in this way. We answer to the people that pay taxes for our budget. And so I wouldn't say we've received a lot. It's kind of looking at the broader impact of what's going on and tightening it up.
I like that. Okay.
Anyone else? All right, and anyone make a motion to approve this statement?
I'll make a motion to approve the concern policy draft.
Very good. Is there a second?
I will second.
Wonderful. Any more discussion or questions? Or additions, or corrections, or et cetera? Hearing none. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. That brings us to legislative update.
Yes, what you have in your packet there is the version of 1205 that was signed by the governor. In discussions with the city attorney's office, what we're really looking at, and the key kind of feedback that I got from the city attorney was, we have the policies that are identified here. We have those, the board policies as approved by this group, as you just did. Those policies currently exist. This does not impinge or alter or change that. As this is right now, it's just saying, do you have policies related to these things? The answer is yes. The other thing is, despite the language in the first part where it talks, which is essentially the Miller test that they changed, the Miller test was the Supreme Court's definition for obscenity that they agreed on. Now, the Miller test that they put in here, they changed it from person to minor, which is a change to Supreme Court language. In the lower part, it talks about the children's collection. Per my discussion with the city attorney's office, we are going to take that as the narrow definition of what that is. And essentially, the children's collection, as we define per our collection development policy. Obviously, they're all in very different, they have their own areas within each library location. They're very specific. So all this is asking currently is for us, for me, and I'm sure there'll be some kind of clarification of who exactly we send them to, but our current policies as identified. So with that, kind of clarification through the city attorney's office, and certainly I attended a meeting with the commission, executive meeting with the commission, where this potential action was discussed in regards to this. They decided not to take any action on this right now, given that it does not impinge on current policy. In other words, it's not saying you have to change policy. You just have to have it, and you have to send it to us to prove that it exists. And if we get materials challenges per this that are not related to the children's collection, at which point then we could go back and seek clarification per the top part of it where they changed the Miller test and add confusion by doing that, and thus the situation that we're in. I guess the one thing I would say is, I don't think this is the end of it. I think potentially, obviously, something 18, 20 months, again, when they get in session again, that there might be more. And we'll be ready for it. We'll just keep on, monitoring the situation. So as of right now, that was the, kind of the, in discussions with the city. So I feel comfortable. I don't feel, we'll see what happens in the future, what happens in the next session, or what have you. But obviously, this, as it was signed into law, is a very different animal than what it was when it first came on the scene. It had the Class B misdemeanor, and you had a couple weeks to get rid of everything and what have you. So that's where it stands right now. It's just kind of wait and watch and see what happens, but we kind of made it through the first salvo, and we'll be better prepared next time.
Number 4 talks about a compliance report. What might that look like?
It'd be simply saying, here's all our policies related to this legislation.
These are all our policies and none of them, right,
Right,
none of them,
the access to materials, the one that you just, the draft you just approved.
Right.
The form that goes along with that, our collection development policy.
they all comply.
Yeah, that's what we have.
Okay. Anyone else? Thank you very much. Thank you for staying on top of this. This is also, as I say, this is my penultimate meeting, so after June, you all have to stay on this. It's going to evolve. Wonderful.
But I can say though, I've gotten nothing but support from the community. I got maybe one weird phone call, but other than that, it's been very, very positive. So that's been exciting.
That's good.
Very
We have a
good.
good community. Wonderful. Okay, so that brings us to much less exciting stuff.
Oh, this is exciting.
Very excited.
This
Yeah,
is my
we
exciting.
get to end with the good news. Okay, let's get our statistical reports. Begin with April usage.
Yeah, again, really looking busy. You can see year-to-date visits across the board are up 15%. That's just under 17,000. Again, program attendance, 53% up over last year, and this is even 6 more children's programs canceled due to the inclement weather of our wonderful April that we were experiencing. Volunteer hours down a little bit. Internet signups, right about the same, up 11% over last year. Web hits up a little bit, 12% over last year. Exciting news on the circulation front again. Looking up again over April last year, just up over almost 11%, and year-to-date, 12% over last year. That's a little over 35,000 more items circulated. Excited about that. Really excited about the visits pick up and the program attendance. I think that's exciting. Especially having programs again on Sundays. I think that helps a lot. Any questions on usage?
No, we're not an inquisitive group today. April financials. I'm sure we have more questions about this.
Yeah, looking at donations on the unrestricted donations, we got in an additional $730 in memory of Don Lindberg, $25 in memory of Brittany Goodman, and $25 from the Fargo Women's Club. So thank you, Fargo Women's Club. And on the restricted donations, the $2,892 was from the Friends, the Fargo Public Library, for the Children's Summer Reading Program. Thank you so much for the Friends. On the expenditure side, the $969, $174 for Crafternoons. Thank you, Friends. $461 for volunteer appreciation through the Peggy Gaynor Memorial, and $403.60 for the Children's Summer Reading Program. Again, thank you to the Friends. And additional summer reading program expenditures, $172, again from the Friends. And a really big thank you from the Friends for the $495 for the Way to Go and library appreciation events for the staff. Like I said before, if it wasn't for the Friends, we wouldn't be able to do it, so that's fantastic.
It's good to have friends.
It is. Good friends, too. On the budget side, with 33% of the year through, we're just under 32% of the budget expended, so just kind of steady as she goes as we do that. And our meager revenue of $10,988.94 total year-to-date through April.
Very good. All right. Anyone want to? I guess. No questions? That leads us to the Friends. Do we have no friends? No friends here. Plenty of friends on the financial report. Our next meeting will be June 20th. That will be my last meeting. Maybe we'll have a party afterwards.
Confetti guns.
We are
Very good.
Yes.
we are adjourned.